Ocean spray bedewed my wind-whipped robes and stung my sun-chapped lips as I white-knuckled the guardrail to balance against the unnaturally fast ship crashing into choppy waves. My eyes tracked beneath the seas some armored leviathan that matched pace with our vessel, but were averted toward our stately stewards, draped in shimmering sheer that accentuated their polished scales, each part of a conspiratorial circle of crystal color and ore, shielded their whispers with shining and sharpened hands. My tongue tugged at the question, to where, pray tell, are we headed? Its answer slithered from beneath my deepest dread to choke the question that scratched at my throat. A gray and fanged wyvern gored a tumbling flock of pseudo-dragons high above me, and what little wisdom I wrestled with sealed my salted lips, for the answer now lacerated my greater conscience. The Draconic Isles, the moon-burst Numina, the Empyrean Empire of the Ennead. A Dracolite of crystalline carapace grinned ominously as if they witnessed my reticent revelation constrict my curiosity. Recently, the Isles silently slid into an isolationist spiral. They tolerated diplomats whose anchors overstayed as soon as they dropped to drag toward Cawthun. A ship, or so the rumors warned, should have the breathy names of an Archon fill its sail, or the breath of an Archon will assail it. One of the elusive Ennead approved this passage, but why? If Archons dwindled incoming diplomats, but our ilk were afforded the red carpet for our reddest work, then that job, that hit, was a far greater blow than any had estimated. What story sours so severely that its telling earns you execution, and what lies in wait for those few murderers now newly infected with some cosmic purpose? I gripped the edges of my overcoat and tightened them. Should any rumor of the rulers here prove hyperbole, the source of his exaggeration should inspire a terror that takes the teeth and drums them. Days passed. The Dracolites aboard incarcerated us in extravagant windowless suites below deck. Fine exotic furs padded our cabin floors, and silver sung to every eye that caught its glint. Daily, scaly digits delivered delectable dishes, delicious cuts of brilliantly braised butchery. They cooked tender tendons, savory and flavorous, but compared to their cutlery, the succulent cutlets they offered were of awful most awful. Silverware etched with exquisite artisanal attention that made the dinnerware worth their weight in platinum. However fanciful the decor glimmered, even the least sane among us reserved enough wit to not risk their life for a spoon. When our ship finally weighed anchor, our generous captors released us from our princely prisons. Save for waves that lapped the ship's hull, that's all that was outside our palatial sails. Silence. Eerie quiet crept into every crevice in consciousness, no matter how dark and deep in shadow or well shrouded. No deckhand grunted or barked. No merchant bartered or boasted. No town crier caterwauled reports or revelations. Wherever we moored, we were alone. We stumbled upstairs where our escorts briefed us on etiquette. We were to point our nose at the feet in front of us, following each other to our sponsor. With no other choice available to us, we agreed. The vault door that sealed us below deck creaked open, and sunlight sliced through its ever-widening gap and seared our sights before some high-ranking hierophant rasped, "Kushik Kainka." The Dracolites harmoniously replied, before all dragonkin present bellowed, Draconic slithered across a tongue and hisses and snaps. Each word envenomated the air with stinging pride and lingering power.
Kurak,
finished the Hierophant, and all of us, encircled, followed. None could have surmised the pier that received us belonged to some greater city of grandeur. Buildings as big as mountain peaks, cathedrals that scratched the sky, statues that whipped rivulets and fed the mouths of lifeless ponds. A majestic megalopolis, voiceless and vacant, wholly hollowed by something hidden, a hum, a hymn. Some severe absence of which I could feel its weighty presence, like a lover long lost watching you through the window as you slept, or the slain mother of the defenseless cub that's just met her hunter. A Dracolite jabbed their finger toward the ground with a hiss to remind me of my station and what direction we agreed my gaze must take. Our feet fell on a gleaming road paved with the currency of other kingdoms, archaic and crumbled, fallen and forgotten, conquered and reclaimed, faces of pharaohs, pieces of presidents, coins of kings and queens, and their council were the cobblestone on which we marched toward the more princely and preeminent empire of the Ennead, if an empire can be appraised by its emptied edifices. We approached palatial pillars of platinum make and ambled between them through an illustrious archway at the heart of this city. The grand chamber housed a decadent desert where each grain of sand glimmered greater than gold, gleaming a pretty platinum, piling into dunes of opulence, glittering in the gloomy shadow as if night tumbled down to the chamber floor and its stars were scattered in this fulsome horde. An inhale of indescribable enormity lifted our scarves and coats, cloaks and hair, carrying with it all the scents from our travels, all the history in our blood, and the blood spilled in our most recent history.
So this is they.
Some heavy and deep voice boomed from the black. Its tenor shook us from all directions.
Who snapped shut the story of stars while the oracle's ink was still wet.
The voice, as saccharine as a sunken city swallowed by syrup, was immense, and its reverberations reached each of us deeply and trembled what it found, all except one peculiar medic among us.
Your reward.
It continued. Minor quakes greatened with the cadence of tremendous footsteps, the cacophonous twinkling chime of skittering coins shaken loose from their piles, and something else. And the shadow of mountainous treasure where the light of ornate lanterns failed to reach. A hovering silver-white glow grew the more its quakes closed the gap between our group and this gargantuan god of glory and greed, greatness and grace. A clawed foot clad in platinum scale emerged from the impenetrable darkness first, then its fist clenching coin that trickled from its clutches, then its massive maw and eyes that gazed in multitudes, and finally the rest of its body, draped in veils and robes that cloaked its body from view, all except the brilliant glow of silvery white emanating from its chest, its platinum dragon heart.
And more.
It approached magisterially on its hind legs and extended its claws to pour our weight in platinum at our feet. It watched us, unblinking, barely visible through the veil, studying us with its eyes of fathomless depth.
If wealth were your whetstone, then I gift enough to hone your edge, should I require you to unsheath your iron will again.
It plunged its claw into a dune. The impact exploded the top half of the mountain and showered platinum pieces beyond the shimmering hilltops of twinkling treasures. A brief waterfall of alluring riches cascaded down the remaining slope, and the dragon poured more before our feet.
Just as some threads must be cut to save a tapestry from unraveling, that killing was a sacrifice. That Mactation granted us a reward, for which we shall reward you, not because of what we shall receive, but what we shall become. Now, choose of my treasury, and return whence you came, for you are the last. No foreigner shall see these shores again, unless as an import of fresh meat.